It's a special privilege for me to have the opportunity to speak here. It's a privilege because the purpose of this learning center is to promote women's learning, which is something that, as the Chief Rabbi was saying, is so crucial and which has not always got the focus and the attention that it deserves. It's a privilege because this learning center is being established at Orsamach, which is the place where I daven, learn and teach, where my wife Sipora plays an influential leadership role, and where our children have grown up for the past almost 10 years. But most of all, it's a privilege because this learning center is being dedicated to the memory of my beloved grandmother, Hswl, blessed memory, and it's being generously sponsored by my dear uncles and aunts, Ronan and Eva, and Alan and Myrna. My uncles alluded to this. My grandmother had a long, rich, and beautiful life. Her personality was a deep and multifaceted one, and she impacted many people. I'd like to relate to one facet of her personality and explain why I think it's so fitting that this learning center be dedicated in her memory. There's a surprising and fascinating connection between two well-known rabbinic teachings. The first, Abraisa and Yavanos, says that there are shloisha simanim, there are three signs, three qualities that distinguish the Jewish people. Firstly, that we are Rahmanim, we are people of mercy or compassion. Secondly, that we are Bashanim, which I would translate as being people who are diffident, who are bashful, who are shy, who are refined. And thirdly, we are Gomlei Chasadim, we are people of loving kindness. Now, to say that these are three simanim is to say that these are not necessarily well-developed or established midos, character traits. It's to say rather that these are three natiyas, these are three inclinations. These are three basic predispositions that are part and parcel of being Jewish. These describe or define the spiritual Jewish DNA. So it doesn't mean that they will necessarily or inevitably be manifested in how we behave. But certainly if we work on ourselves, we have a tremendous inherent capacity to be like these qualities. The second rabbinic teaching is the famous Mishnah at the beginning of Pirkei Avos, which says that the world is sustained by three things. The Chief Rabbi spoke about how we often talk about empowerment. We also often talk about sustainability. So in spiritual terms, the Torah tells us that the world is sustained by three things. By Torah, by Avodah, which nowadays in the absence of the Beis Hamikdash means davening, and Gomlei Chasadim, which is acts of chesed. Now, as Rav Shlomo explains, those three natiyas, those three qualities that are part and parcel of being Jewish, in fact enable and make possible those three things that sustain the world. And I'd like to relate to one of them, which is the relationship between the quality of Bashanis and learning Torah. Bashanis is closely associated with tznius. Now we often misunderstand tznius. We think that tznius is purely about the physical, that tznius is just about a dress code, that tznius is just about concealing parts of one's body that shouldn't be exposed. Now that, of course, is an integral part of tznius, but tznius is much broader. Tznius is an overarching attitude and approach to life. The definition of tznius is to not reveal the full measure of who you are or what you have. Tznius is about, in some way, holding back. And there are lots of different manifestations of that. If, for example, you are blessed with a great intellect and you know a lot, then if you reveal the full measure of what you know or what you understand, that in some sense implies a lack of tznius. If you've been blessed with lots of wealth, then you're certainly entitled to have a good life. But if you ostentatiously flaunt that wealth, that in some sense shows a lack of tznius. And it applies emotionally. If you just blurt out your feelings, if you share your most intimate emotions with anybody without any kind of restraint, that in some sense shows a lack of tznius. My grandmother was a tsanua par excellence. Roland alluded to this earlier. One of her great qualities was her modesty. There was nothing that was brash or brazen or boastful about her. And she was someone who had very strong feelings, which is probably why she was such a talented artist, but she knew how to hold her feelings. She had a self-restraint. And I think that explains why she had this extraordinary dignity. After she passed away, people spoke about her as a lady among ladies. When she walked into the room, she made an impression. She had an almost regal quality. I think that was in a way related to her tznius. And I think that her tznius explained the relationship that she had with Torah. Because Torah is all about hidden truth or concealed wisdom. The study of Torah is to unearth that hidden truth. And so truth, emes in Torah terms, is about much more than the opposite of sheker or falsehood. Sheker means something which is factually untrue or incorrect, something which contradicts reality. But emes, truth in Torah terms, means much more than something which accurately reflects reality. Of course, that is a prerequisite for something being true, truthful or emestic. But emes also demands that you are conveying something which is in some sense new, a chiddush, a radical insight. And that's how you have to learn Torah. When you learn Torah, if your understanding is obvious, if what you work out is something that you could have figured out yourself, then it probably means that you haven't understood it properly. Torah always tells us what we don't know. There's always that element of chiddush. And without tznius, you can't have a relationship with Torah. Because if you don't have tznius, if there isn't that holding back, if everything is out there, if it's no holds barred, then you become preoccupied with externalities. It's only if in some sense you withdraw, if in some sense you conceal, if in some sense you show restraint, that you can cultivate that rich inner world, that deeper self, which makes possible a relationship with Torah. And this perhaps explains the relationship which my grandmother had with Torah. She didn't have the formal learning skills that you get from a classic Jewish education. But she had great appreciation of Torah. She showed great respect to Rabbanim. And I can tell you personally that for many years, while I learned in Kollel, she strongly encouraged me and helped to financially support me. And she loved Torah. When I would see her on a Motzei Shabbos or on a Sunday, she would always ask me what I had said in my drasha or my shir on Shabbos. You know, you sometimes go to Shabbos meals, and people say the V'ad Torah, but you feel they're not really interested in it. They're just doing it to give a kind of kosher stamp to the meal. When you were at the meal with my grandmother, she asked for Devar Torah. She really was interested. She wanted to hear. And I think that that was related to her tznius. You know, there's a very interesting thing. You go around the world, and all children of all different cultures have something in common. They love playing the game hide and seek. This tells you something fundamental about human nature, which is that we love the process of discovery and being discovered. And this is why the study of Torah is so thrilling and so exciting, because it's this endless process of discovery and self-discovery. And so, in Yitz Hashem, lots of Torah will be learned at this learning center, as many women engage in that search for truth, in that thrilling process of discovery. And in so doing, they'll give nachas to my grandmother, who is in the world of truth. And it will be a sus and an aliyah for her neshama.